Hey everybody, this is Andres from Board Gamify, and today I'm back to talk about an expansion for Lost Ruins of Arnak, Expedition Leaders. So in this video, I'm going to go ahead and show you all of the components that come with this expansion, and then I'll get into my thoughts at the end. So as always, I'll include some timestamps at the bottom, so feel free to jump around. So let's go ahead and start by covering everything that comes in this box. The first thing that you see here, everything above this area, is just more of the content that came in the base game. So more artifacts, more items, assistants, idols, guardians, and campsites. Then we're going to have this overlay, and this overlay goes on top of the board that comes in the base game, covering the original research track, and they're just alternate research tracks. It is double-sided, so this side changes up the rewards and the order in which you get them, and it also has this section where at the beginning of the game you'll place a guardian. So when you reach this level, you'll have the option of defeating it just as if you were at a campsite. Then on the other side we have the area where you can put an artifact card. Now you do have to put an artifact card that costs exactly 3 compass, and once you reach this level you'll have the option of activating its ability, but that card will stay there. Nobody has the option of purchasing it, so everyone else has a chance to get to that level and activate its ability. Then we have all of the components that come with or that are used for the unique player boards, and this is probably the aspect that most people were anticipating for this expansion, were all of the unique characters that you can play now. So let me go ahead and start by covering those. Now I'll go into just some brief detail on what each of these are, just to give you an idea of what the character does. So the first is the Baroness. Now she will gain income at the beginning of each of the rounds, and has a card that when you play it, any item that you purchase goes directly to your hand. Then we have the Professor. The Professor will also gain items throughout each round, but they'll also have their own satchel where they'll have artifact cards that they can purchase that are only available to them. Then we will have the Falconer, which has their own progress track that they'll take this Falcon token and move it up, and then they'll get certain rewards depending on when they choose to pull it back. Then we have the Captain. The Captain just gets an extra worker for the whole game. And then we have the Explorer. Now the Explorer is going to have these food tokens, 2 of which she starts with, and then the third she'll get in the third round of the game. And she also starts with 1 less worker, so she'll only have 1 worker for the whole game. But she can use these food tokens either on cards that she's played to gain different effects, or she can place them on the board to return the 1 worker back to continue placing it. And then finally we have the Mystic. So the Mystic revolves around fear cards. And as a matter of fact, every time they fill their hand to 5 cards, they'll gain a fear card. So you'll gain at least 5 additional fear cards throughout the course of the game, 1 for each round. But every time they destroy a fear card, instead of going back to the main board, it'll stay here on their player board. It won't count as negative points for them at the end of the game. But then some of the cards in their unique deck will allow them to perform a ritual getting rid of those fear cards to gain a bonus. Something else you'll notice on these player boards is on the idle slots, some of them are highlighted in blue. That's a new thing, so if you cover up a blue shaded idle slot, you'll also have the option of choosing the blue bonuses listed at the bottom of each player board. So you can still choose the normal reward, just like in the base game, but you have this additional one as well, only for these blue shaded spots. Each of these characters is going to come with their own player sheet. Now these are really useful. You could literally just hand somebody their player board, the respective items, and it's going to teach them how to play it. Especially if they already know how to play the base game, there's really not a lot to picking up these new characters. And then of course their new starting deck. So each board will come with 4 cards, replacing the 2 gold and 2 compass cards in the normal starting decks. And they'll have something to do with their unique abilities or powers, giving them different effects. And that is everything that comes in the base game. There are a few other tokens here that I did forget to mention. There's a new red staff, which just replaces the blue one. You actually have the option of playing with either one. The red, the only difference is as it progresses through the rounds, it'll remove 2 cards on either side of it instead of the 1 that you get with the blue. You do get these campsite tokens, which essentially just represent your player color. Not super useful. I guess the one nice thing is when you pass for a round, you can flip it over to show that you've passed. And then one of these tokens for each of the characters, which essentially are just randomizing tokens. So if you don't want to pick characters for each person, you can randomize them. So let's go ahead and get into my thoughts on this expansion as a whole. So I guess the first thing is all of this stuff that comes with the expansion that's just an addition to what already came in the base game. I like that. I didn't feel like the base game necessarily needed more artifacts or item cards. I wasn't burning through those decks every game. But I do like some of the new abilities and powers that are included on the new cards. So I just enjoyed those overall. They were really nice to have. One thing to mention, 2 of them are actually meant to be replacements for cards in the original game. So the Stone Key artifact card and the Miner Assistant. These are new balanced versions of those cards, so they're just meant to be replacements. Then we have the new research track. I actually really enjoyed this, especially that it's double-sided. Like I mentioned in the overview, they essentially just changed the rewards you're getting. I think they kind of balanced it a bit better than the original research track on the base game. And the 2 new added features with the Guardian and the Artifact were a nice touch. It's just a nice little bonus that you can get that blends well into the game. I will say I think this Artifact side is my preferred side. I'll play with either one, but I really liked this side. And the main reason is for the assistant upgrade portions. So in this board, you immediately gain an assistant on the first level, which is really nice. It kind of helps speed the game up. And then at the second level, you have the option of either gaining another silver assistant or upgrading your existing one to gold. So having that option is really nice. If you want to go a bit wider and gain 2 silver assistants, or just immediately upgrade to gold and try and get that stronger benefit. None of the other boards offer that option. So I really enjoyed playing this one. I will say though, I think by far, my most favorite part of this expansion are the unique starting decks. It really was like a breath of fresh air for a deck builder type game, to where the starting cards in your deck, you don't feel like they're going to hinder you later on. Oftentimes in deck builders, you just want to immediately get rid of your starting cards so that you have more options and drawing more frequently the cards that you've bought. I didn't feel that way with this one. They scale well with you throughout the game. I didn't feel like I just needed to immediately get this out of my deck, even though I still had the option to, because they gave me unique abilities that worked with my player board. So I really liked that. Like I said, it was kind of a breath of fresh air to just know that the cards I'm starting with aren't bad. They're going to be useful throughout the game, even though I still have the option of getting rid of them. And then I guess that brings us to the player boards. Now this was probably the thing people anticipated the most, and I don't want to say I didn't enjoy them, because I did, and I would even go as far as to say I'm always going to play with these. But they didn't quite meet my expectation when they announced that they were going to have these asymmetric powers. Because my mind immediately went to, oh, asymmetric, that's gonna be like a game of Root, right? Where things are really asymmetric. Everybody has their own abilities, their own powers. They're playing the game differently. They're gonna win in their own ways. That is not the case with this. You do get your own unique powers and abilities, but you're very much playing the same game you did in the base game. You're working your way up the research track. You're exploring new areas. You're defeating guardians. So these are really just kind of a nudge in one direction or the other that kind of help guide you at the beginning of the game. But even with that, you don't even necessarily need to follow that path. Maybe with a few exceptions like the Mystic, where you're going to be getting those fear cards, so you might as well use its ritual ability. But others, like the Baroness, for example, doesn't really change the way you play. Sure, you can get an item card straight to your hand once per round, but it wasn't very asymmetric. So I think, as much as I liked it, you could consider it a disappointment. But still, all of that being said, I still really enjoyed it. I'm going to play with it every time. They don't change the game too much. So like I said, I'm going to play with this every time I play the game. Even if I'm teaching somebody the game for the first time, these concepts aren't very hard. Once you learn how to play the base game, you could literally just hand them the sheet and they'll know how to play any of the characters that are available. So it was nice in that aspect. But that is definitely something to be aware of. If you were thinking you were going to get this expansion and it was going to turn this base game into a completely asymmetric version of it, that's not the case. It just gives you some nice touches, some nice abilities that are unique to you, that will help drive your play, but it's very much the same play as in the base game. So yeah, overall, I really enjoyed this. This was one I was really looking forward to. I really enjoy Lost Ruins of Arnak. It's been one of my favorite games, in the past 2 years. It hits the table pretty often. I teach it often. It's not a hard teach. So I was really looking forward to this. And, I definitely don't think it disappointed. I just think I had probably some false expectations for what these unique player boards were going to bring. But overall, I think it's a great expansion. I wouldn't necessarily call it a must-have expansion. And the reason for that is, if I went to a friend's house and all they had were the base game and they didn't have the expansion, I would still gladly play it. Even though, if I'm playing it at my house, I would pretty much always include this. But it doesn't want to make me play the game more or get me more excited for the game. I think it's just something nice to have. So yeah, really good expansion. Probably not a must-have, but if you enjoy Lost Ruins of Arnak, I think it's worth getting, even just to have the option, of the research track, the starting deck, the extra cards, the unique powers. It's just more of what we liked in Lost Ruins of Arnak. So yeah, thank you guys for hearing my thoughts. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. Tell me what you thought about the expansion in the comments below. I'll definitely read through those and respond to as many as I can. And if you want to see more content like this, please subscribe to the channel. Thanks. Talk to you next time.